Let's bring in Chad Wolf, former acting DHS secretary under Donald Trump. Good morning to you, Mr. Secretary.
Good morning.
Good morning. So yesterday, Vladimir Putin had a televised announcement which he was threatening the West, including the United States. He said a couple of words for those who would be tempted to intervene. Russia will respond immediately, and you will have consequences that you have never had before in your history. What exactly does that mean? Is that cyber attacks or is that something more?
Well, I think as it relates to the United States, it's certainly cyber attacks. I think we know that that's not only their playbook, but they have the capability to do that. We saw that, or I'd say Ukraine saw that in 2015 and 2016 on attacks to their infrastructure. So we know that they have the ability to do that in Ukraine, but we also know they have the ability to do that elsewhere in the United States as well as the rest of the world. So I think folks should suspect or expect that as this unfolds and Western European nations become involved, the U.S. becomes involved, we do more sanctions, that the Russian government could certainly launch certain cyber attacks against the United States and other allies across the world. So certainly our cyber defenses need to be up, and I'm sure they are, both working at the Department of Homeland Security as well as NSA and others around the government probably have those defenses up and are looking for those key indicators.
Mr. Secretary, what is our doctrine on not just defense in a cyber scenario, but offense? So Vladimir Putin is vowing consequences greater than you've ever faced in history. He also said, I hope I have been heard. If it's, we don't even want to go down the dangerous trail of, he's talked about nuclear weapons and all of that. Let's set that aside and hope that's not potentiality. But let's say there is a cyber attack, a massive one, against people who are willing to intervene at some level like the United States. How do we respond?
Well, sure. Once an attack occurs, we're automatically playing defensive measures. And so you're trying to shore up your defenses at that point. I think when you talk about offensive capabilities, it's really led by the intelligence community. So if they're able to identify certain things that are going to occur in the future and get word of that, then obviously we can launch certain cyber offensive capabilities. But we got to know about that in advance. You've got to have pretty good intelligence, and you've got to know what to target specifically. Again, once the attack occurs and a network has been compromised, then you're playing defense, and then you're trying to restore a lot of those capabilities at that time. So this is really driven by the intelligence community, what they've been picking up. I've been fairly impressed thus far about what they have seen and been able to plan out and predict what Vladimir Putin is going to do in Ukraine. Now, the question becomes, do they have that same insight when it comes to cyber attacks, which are a little different than your traditional military maneuvers? A lot of these cyber actors are not certainly affiliated with the Russian government, but are backed by the Russian government.
Well, and in fact, our DHS Secretary Mayorkas yesterday said there are no known threats when it comes to cyber. Same message from the White House podium. But to your point about, remember the colonial attack a year ago, our president said, hey, Putin, don't ever let that happen again or else something bad's going to happen. Well, now, Putin had said, those are people, I can't control them, and we'll see what happens. Well, now he's unleashing the dogs on everybody. He's doing it against Ukraine right now at this hour.
Yeah, I think that's right. I think it's clear that, Putin really doesn't fear the United States at the moment. I think that comes from a lack of leadership, not only from the president, the vice president, and others. So I think we've got to understand that. But again, I think at this point, we've got to look towards what are the defenses, what are those key indicators when we think that the cyber attacks that are occurring right now in Ukraine on certain websites, defense ministries, and the like. Once that they decide to go beyond that, they go to Western Europe and they go to the United States. And I think that has got to be led by the intelligence community, giving us enough insight to that to, again, make sure that we put up our defenses, but then can take offensive measures as well.
Mr. Secretary, a bit off topic, but not really. You were the Secretary of the Homeland Security. And there's a lot of people, our viewers right now, and myself included, frustrated by the fact that our southern border is wide open here in the United States of America, yet we're obsessing over a border half a world away. How concerned should we be as far as it pertains to our national security when it comes to what Vladimir Putin is doing in the Ukraine?
Well, I think we have to be really concerned at this moment. I've said over the past 12 months, if bad actors want to try to infiltrate the United States, then they have a playbook on how to do that along the southern border. And so what we have seen over the past several months is more and more individuals from around the world crossing that border illegally. It's no longer just Mexico, and it's no longer just Central America. We are seeing folks from Asia, from Africa, again, all over the globe coming to that southwest border because they know that they have a better chance today than they ever have before crossing that border illegally and getting into the country and staying into the country. And I think that's the concern. Anytime there is a major national incident like we're seeing today, is how do our adversaries take advantage of that when our attention perhaps is not along that southern border and it's elsewhere? What does that mean, and what does that mean for individuals and contraband coming across that southern border? So absolutely, I am concerned about that.
Mr. Secretary, we saw, I know you worked for President Trump, and we saw him fight back against other countries that were threatening us or trying to threaten us. And when you see Vladimir Putin threaten our country or threaten our Western allies yesterday by saying we're going to come for you if you try to mess with us, there will be consequences. We're going to see our current president, President Biden, speak today at noon. What should he say? Does he fight back? Does he hit him? Does he punch him back?
Well, I would say almost at this point, it matters little what is said, unfortunately. Again, this should have been continued engagement from day one of this administration. I think that we saw that with President Trump, where he talked to adversaries, whether it was Putin, whether it was China, whether it was North Korea. You don't have to like them, you don't have to agree with them, but you have to engage them because you need to make sure that they understand your intentions, they understand what you're capable of. And I know, we've heard a lot of talk about President Trump people not understanding or knowing what he might or might not do. And I actually think that that is a strength. I think, Putin knows exactly what President Biden's going to do. He's going to talk about more sanctions. And he's going to talk about more sanctions. And so I think that's the concern is we're not being nimble enough and we're not showing that strength both here at home as well as overseas.
All right. Mr. Secretary, thank you very much for joining us this morning.
Thank you.
Thank you.